Like we always do at this time. Y'all, it's Thursday. It's 1 p.m. So you know what it must be. It's the True Colors Podcast. What up, y'all? It's your host, Jamal Jude, and I'm lucky enough to be the artistic director at True Colors Theater Company. I want to welcome you to podcast episode number 50. We're going to flip it around. 50. Y'all, we made it to 50 of these things. How crazy is that? I want to thank you all for just coming along on the journey with us as we try to figure out what's happening not only in Atlanta, but in our national art scene. What's also happening locally in our civic space. True Colors believes that we thrive at the intersection of artistic excellence and civic engagement. Let me say that again because I kind of tripped over myself. Artistic excellence and civic engagement. Yeah, that's what we do over at True Colors, man. And we're really excited that you've been rocking with us this long and tuning in every week to hear what we have to say. Today, my guest is Iymaani Aytes. We are going to chat with her about what does it mean to be supporting and on the side of artists and helping them do more with their career. And of course, at the end, if there's a little bit of time, I want to talk to you all about things that are happening at True Colors and a few thoughts that I have around what's going on, especially we talk about building BIPOC coalitions to fight against the real enemy, which is systemic injustice, which is white supremacy, and what happens when we accidentally take shots at each other and how we have to then make amends for that. But that's at the end of the podcast. Right now, let's not waste any time and get to the reason why you're to hang out with Ms. Aytes as we talk about just her work, what she's been doing on behalf of artists. What's up, Iymaani? How are you?
Hey, how are you? Thank you so much,
Um,
Jamil, for this opportunity.
yeah, it's all good, man. You can call me Jude. You can call me
I don't
Jamil. It
know why
don't
I'm
matter,
calling
you
you
know.
Jude. I think this because your last name is it? What's your Instagram name?
Yeah, it's Mr. JD Jude. So
It's
like,
Mr.
so
Yeah.
many people in my life call me Jude. So like, it's cool. Like,
I don't know why that just automatically slips out, but thanks for the opportunity, Jamil.
yeah, no problem. Like I said, feel free. Jamil or Jude is fine. Just don't call me Jamal. It changes my name. It changes my name from being Arabic. It means handsome, I believe, and then I think Jamal in Arabic means camel hump. So I've always told that joke to people, especially if their names are Jamal. But I haven't actually done the research to know if Jamal really does mean camel hump. But Iymaani, we are getting to know each other, but also help me fill in the gaps, but also fill it in for people who are just now getting a chance to meet you. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, where your people come from, and what you do in the industry.
Well, anytime you give a New Yorker an opportunity to tell you where we're from, we rep really hard. So I'm
Right.
from Brooklyn. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. Proud alum of Virginia State University in
Okay.
Petersburg, Virginia, and Columbia University in New York City. Um, I became a lover of the arts at a really, really young age. Growing up in New York, arts was around us all the time and a part of our ecosystem. But because I love dance so much, my family put me in dance classes at an early age. I was able to see Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater of Harlem, Broadway shows. And then in junior high school, I took advantage of the dance education programs that were available to me. And I was hooked ever since. So for over 15 years, I've worked in educational institutions, cultural arts organizations like NYU Steinhardt and Alvin Ailey Dance Foundation to lead project planning, cultivation, and sustainability of partnerships and creating dynamic programming, which obviously impacts community engagement. So that's kind of the overarching of the work that I've been doing.
She said, "Listen, y'all, I'm not new to this. I am true to this. I've been
I am
doing it,
true to
and
this.
thankful to some parents in your that helped introduce you to the arts early. All of us are the beneficiaries of
Absolutely.
that.
And my mom is
There.
on as well. So hi, mama.
Hey, what up, mom? Okay, let me go ahead and cross out some of these hard questions. Just we don't want to upset mom in the chat. But so you had that experience in New York, and found yourself here now in the Atlanta metro. What brought you to town?
Well, with working with Alvin Ailey Dance Foundation for what was 8 years, I came to the city through an initiative called Destination Dance Ailey Atlanta, and so for 4 years I was coming to the city and really saw how arts was immersed as a staple in the community and loved it. And so last year I packed up my bags and all of my shoes and moved to Atlanta and started my own business.
More shoes than clothes, more clothes than
More,
shoes.
yes, more shoes than clothes always.
Yeah, no doubt. That's a good somebody after my own heart. I love that. So you were working with Alvin Ailey. Alvin Ailey at the time was doing a lot, and still, I imagine when we get back from the pandemic, they'll be back here in Atlanta, finding out about the vibrant art scene. And now you are a player in that art scene. Can you speak to the public about what you do and how you support the artists here?
Absolutely. So I started an agency last year. So it's just a little baby. She's just under a year, or about a year old now, called the Aytes Agency. And it's a boutique arts consulting firm committed to creating opportunities to expand the offerings of the arts to diverse communities. So, if you're a non-arts organization that want to participate in the arts, call me up. If you are an arts organization or educational institution that wants to participate in the arts, call me up. But really, the focus is creating vibrant programs and transformative partnerships that we hope will strengthen the ties in which these organizations are a part of.
Yeah, I love hearing that because what I hear in that is that you believe, like we believe over at True Colors, that the arts can play a huge role in making sure that we have a more dynamic community. Would you say that that's coming from your background, how you were raised, or is it from the engagement work that you saw at Ailey, or is it a combination of all those things that have led you to that spot?
I think it's a combination of everything. And honestly, growing up, so I didn't become a dancer, although I did love it. But seeing how impactful, the arts was on my own life and creating what I would believe is a disciplined person, more focused. Dance and arts creates like a social kind of umbrella for people, for youth especially. And so I think that, for all of those reasons, I wanted to be a part of kind of the legacy of what the arts has already provided for us.
Great, y'all. Today, my guest is Iymaani Aytes. We are talking about a new agency that she founded, Aytes Consulting Agency, where she is working with artists just to help them get their word out there. If I am a freelance artist, which I am a freelance artist, and I come to you, Iymaani, and I say, hey, help me do blank. Like, what do I need to do in order to be prepared to work with you? And what can I expect from working with you?
Well, so the role that I like to consider myself is a connector. So, you know, as I'm going about and working with corporate organizations, foundations, as I said, cultural institutions, I'm really learning about what they want, and because I do have an expansive network of artists, new and not so new, I'm able to really kind of make it see where they fit. So if you came to me and asked me, I may not have an opportunity for you. The likeliness is that I will actually call you and say, hey, Jamil, I have an opportunity for you. And, I'm working with this client, and we are wanting to create whatever the thing is, and I think you would be a great fit. And also, and you being a great fit, I will make sure that you are compensated fairly, and kind of be the conduit between the client and the artist. So that's kind of how that would work.
I think sometimes people forget that, artists, we are generally good at being artists, and it is a different skill set to be also good at business, to also be good at
Right.
promotion and marketing and things like that. And there have, for so long, an artist's ability to receive notoriety or to just find themselves in the places that they want to be, the communities that they want to be, and to support their art. They had to do it by themselves, and so many artists hit some dead ends with that. And what I hear you saying is that you're helping alleviate some of that pressure on artists, going to bat for them on behalf of them around compensation, which is so difficult sometimes for people to talk about. We get skittish about money, but also making
Absolutely.
sure that that the communication with them and a partner is solid and no balls are dropped. Often we're too busy creating the art to also be trying to manage the conversation and the communication. So it seems like that's a really vital resource. When you
Absolutely.
first arrived in town, did you already have artists that were on your roster, or has it been a process of meeting the community and adding more artists to your catalog?
Well, I mean, coming in town, I'm really blessed enough to be able to say that I have met so many amazing people here in Atlanta, both organizations and artists. But I also come from, a place in New York City where I've known a lot of artists. So I was lucky enough to have, a network already, but also really excited to build upon that network here in Atlanta with new artists. So I'm still in the process of building. Of course, if you know anybody, send them my way.
You
But
got people
just
listening to podcasts.
yeah, come on through, and I'll take care of you. But really trying to build it so that it can be opportunity that will create sustainability for our artists.
That's great. Iymaani, I want to talk a little bit about the way that artists respond to culture and to the moment. When I look at some of the work that you've done with the Aytes agency, and I look at some of the artists that you help support, like Jewel D. Lane. Jewel is a good friend of the podcast, good friend of True Colors, and I think that Jewel and other artists in your on your team are really finding ways to use their artistry to speak to the culture. Can you speak a little bit about how you play in that role, but also like what you hope to see when success looks like an artist doing what? How does how do you play a role in getting an artist to represent themselves and represent the community as best as they can?
Well, first off, first thing is that when working with
Start
artists and
over a little
understanding.
bit. Start over a little bit. We lost you
Sorry,
for
I
a
got a
second, so
call.
let's just get it clear. It's all good. I
Okay.
get it. I get it.
So I was saying the first thing, is it okay?
Yeah, I think we're Gucci now.
Okay, good. Oh, I like that term. I use that term all the time. But the thing is, understanding that artists are serious about their art, and while they're creating, you want to be able to put them in a position where they, like you said earlier, they don't have to worry about, kind of some of the kind of the back and forth. So I think it's about being able to communicate with their partner the truth about what these artists are doing, and also being able to say, okay, well, I have this opportunity that's maybe outside of what you like, maybe the concert stage, creating a platform for you to work in another type of area, again, that welcomes dance. And if I'm not answering the question correctly, feel free to
Oh no,
re-ask the question.
don't worry, I
um,
got you.
but I think when I think about what you said, it kind of brings me to a recent opportunity where I was able to provide exposure in a different area of entertainment for artists, and expose them to a really large audience. Um, so if I didn't answer, I don't feel like I
Yeah,
didn't answer the
can you
question.
speak to that? Can you speak to that larger opportunity that you had? Is it public or?
Well, it was a public, it was a corporate account, and I was able to hire, you know, artists who are at the top of their game, to do a dance series, for a corporate client. Um, and honestly, it was giving these artists exposure to the work that they're currently doing, um, and setting them up in a position where they're now able to do work outside of what they usually do, which is maybe teaching classes locally at a studio, or I mean, they're at the top of their game, so they do all of it, but showcasing their talent to a wider audience through kind of this type of communication. So Instagram Live, for example.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also saw on some of your pages that you had artists like Jewel and others do work at the Home Depot backyard. Is that what you were speaking to? Because, like, here in Atlanta, like Home Depot backyard and some of those outdoor experiences really
Absolutely.
are huge events and are raising the profile of artists. But it's also a gathering space right next to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium that has, right now it's a vaccination center, and it's been so
Yes.
many things. So people know exactly where it is,
Yeah,
located in the heart of the city. So it really brings a lot of awareness to these artists. So hats off to you for getting them that type of exposure.
absolutely.
Guys, my guest is Ms. Iymaani Aytes. We are just talking about the work that she does to make sure that artists can connect to communities and connect to corporate partners so that they have an opportunity to share their work and raise their platforms and their ability to do their best and present their best out to other people. Amani, over the summer, over last summer, now that we're a year into it, we started to see how our worlds were being impacted by these twin pandemics, right? Of course, we know COVID-19, but we were also starting to see more people were starting to see the long-term effects of white supremacy and systemic injustice and how that's plagued our society. I'm interested to know, first, let's just start with COVID. How has the pandemic, this viral pandemic, affected your work? How have you tried to coach and guide artists through this moment, knowing that so many of them, especially those in the performing arts, have been unable to do their best work?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as you know, it's been really difficult. Artists are used to going out and doing their thing, traveling or, touring, teaching artists, going to the schools, teaching students. And now we have not been able to do that. So the pivot has been real, and what the really amazing thing about the arts is that it's resilient. And so a lot of people, organizations have pivoted and gone online. And so, the good thing is that, the art still remains and, people are still able to experience the arts through these means. But it takes away from a creative to not be able to do what they do. So it has been a struggle. But I think for the most part, like I said, the arts is resilient, and I think it gave us a moment to really sit back and reflect and create. And so the Aytes Agency was born out of that. A lot of other things was born out of the stillness that we were able to get from the pandemic. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts around that.
And now this other pandemic that we've been dealing with for a lot longer than over the last year, but people are really starting to wake up to so many injustices, starting with what we witnessed with Breonna Taylor last summer as we all kind of stood still as this news poured into our homes, and then with George Floyd. What work have you seen artists want to, and desire to speak specifically to that? Have you identified corporations or business partners that want to find ways to use art as a way to speak to these things?
What I'm actually really proud of is our organizations being more vocal about what's happening. I think, a lot of the times, we all try to stay neutral, but because that was, like you said, pandemic, it's something that's impacting all of us. It was everyone's responsibility to respond. And so I'm really happy to see arts organizations stepping up and responding to what's happening now, of artists, again, creating works about what's happening now, and actually able to feel, and be in the moment about what's happening now.
Yeah. I'm, at True Colors, right? Like the podcast came out of the pandemic as far as things were getting shut down, but we have really been trying to respond to it before we knew that this was what 2020 and the beginning of 21 would look like. We had an idea that our season was going to be called Joy and Pain, and that we were going to explore what those emotions felt like in the lives of Black people, and that how they seem like they are complete opposite emotions, but for Black people that they are inextricable in the ways in which they show up in our life. We can go from one moment to the next, and oftentimes Black Twitter has been so great over Twitter's life of finding comedic moments inside of the craziness of experiencing the world in these bodies. Um, what we have found is that we have created, or artists have desired, to work with True Colors to kind of create work that is responding to this moment. We did it with our Real Talk series. We've done it with a Real Responses series as well. I'm interested in what the Aytes agency is looking to do as you move forward, knowing that like you were birthed in the midst of this craziness in the pandemic. How do you think that's going to help define your agency moving forward?
Wow. And I'm kind of skipping along a little bit, but I think that it just makes the work more intentional. It makes me very particular about the work that I bring on, and the clients that I work with, and ensuring, because my thing is partnership, so ensuring that I'm creating a partnership that is fruitful. So I can give an example. I'm working with Terminus Modern Ballet Theater here in Atlanta, and a part of the work that I'm doing with them is to help them create a program. It's called Catalyst, and it's to train and mentor Black dancers, young ballet dancers, because as we saw there, there's not a lot of Black ballet dancers, let alone mentorship. So being able to provide mentorship. So what we did was bring two organizations together, Dance Canvas. We all know Angela Harris. So bringing Angela on to mentor the students, and to provide the professional development for those students that participated in the Catalyst program. But for me, what was also really important was bringing on strategic partners, community partners like Miss Rose Dance Closet, which is an all Black women, Black women owned dancewear store here in College Park in Atlanta. Okay, and then also Shock Photo, Shakara Marcus, she's a Black photographer. So bringing on these types of clients and partners to create a really robust, mission aligned, just amazing partnership is really at the core of the work that I'm doing.
I love it, Iymaani. Iymaani Aytes is my guest today on the podcast number 50, y'all. We're so excited that we have made it this far. Iymaani, I'm a transplant to Atlanta. I moved here in 2017, although it was always the nearest big city to me, where I grew up in Tallahassee, Florida. So I have familiarity here. It was still a shock to me once I moved here to say, okay, well, what is the artistic landscape? Because it's different from the vibe in the cities that I had lived in before then. You moved here from New York. You were representing the BK. What was the city like? How'd you find Atlanta? Not only as you were visiting here through Alvin Ailey, but now that you're here, like what did you wish you knew about the Atlanta art scene before moving down here full time?
Honestly, I think I came at a very peculiar time. And so as I have amazing friends here. And so, yes, I came with work, but also, I have just a lot of amazing friends here. And I do have family here as well. And I actually, because of the pandemic, have not really been able to do a lot, as we all haven't. But I wouldn't say there's anything that I didn't know. I've seen a lot. I've experienced. I've partnered through my work with Ailey with amazing arts organizations like the High, the Rialto Center for the Arts at Georgia State University area, Spelman College. Their dance department. So I've seen a lot, and that actually made me want to know more and learn more. So I'm cool. Like I didn't, there was nothing that I wanted to know more, that I did that I didn't know, and kind of, but I'm fine. I'm fine with what I know, and they are all amazing organizations.
Good. Well, I'm glad that you have landed safely here. We're going to get you out on these last couple of questions. What I've been asking all of our guests, all 50 of them now, 50 plus, since sometimes we have multiple guests on each podcast, to close your eyes with me. And I want you to think about radical reinvention. I know you said that you landed here and you feel really comfortable with the way that the city operated, and you didn't feel like you didn't have a want for anything. But as a cultural worker, as someone who is advocating on behalf of artists, you are going to have and play in a major role in impacting the local art scene. So as you think about radical reinvention and you think about the impact that the Aytes agency will have in the city of Atlanta over the next X years, tell us what comes to mind. What do you see? And I'd love for you to share that with the audience.
That's an amazing question, Jamil. Radical reinvention, right? Like of our arts or our arts community. And when we say arts community, are we saying the Black community, Black arts community?
Sure, yeah.
Just,
Whatever you did when you closed your eyes, who you thought of, that's what we want to know.
well, I'm saying I'm thinking Black arts community.
It's all good with
So
us.
when I think about that, for me, again, I'm bringing back the word intentional, and intentional about sustaining our legacy, historical legacy, creating strategic and mission-aligned partnerships. And what's really important to me is working with HBCUs. So designing well-executed partnerships, arts education programs to ensure that, you know, students or Black students on the collegiate level become our future patrons. They become our donors, and that they know that there's space available to them. So the reinvention for me is creating that that platform for the next generation to become arts lovers.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I can't wait to see what you do with the Aytes agency. I can't wait to see the ways in which True Colors can work with you moving forward, because you have had such an impact already on artists that we work with. I know with all of my heart that the impact is going to be strong. So I can't wait to see you as one of the major players here in this market. Iymaani, we've talked about several things. We have talked about how in the midst of a pandemic, you've been able to be creative and create and respond to needs that you saw. But we also know, man, this last year and a half, X number of years for some of us has been trying as hell. And the pain is real, and we feel it all over the place. But we know that to find joy is an act of revolution, and we often have to seek out joy as a refuge in those painful times. I want to know and share with us what things are bringing you joy these days.
Well, so many things. Being able to obviously wake up every day, right? To cook. I love cooking. I like Lauren. I love cooking. Healthy meals for my friends. I love now being in the South. I'm loving horseback riding. So I got the equestrian spirit. Calling my friends random on FaceTime, you know, like things like that.
Are you doing the thing where you like call somebody on FaceTime and then you like hang up and say, you know, like what you call me for or whatever, I guess, whatever that trend was happening? Yeah.
It's just, you know how that, you know, I think now everyone's just texting all day. And so I literally pick up the phone, call them on FaceTime during the middle of the day. Just, you know, that's just what I do. So, you know, just stuff like that, just little things that bring me joy. But, you know, as I'm here in Atlanta now, you know, trying to get more accustomed to being here and the neighborhood in which I live. And, you know, hopefully, you know, the weather will stay nice, because I know Atlanta has different types of weather. And just, you know, being able to enjoy the weather.
I'm surprised that there weren't a whole lot of horses running around Brooklyn. Is that what you're telling me? That in Brooklyn you didn't get a chance to practice those equestrian skills?
Not at all.
That's all good. Well, Iymaani, thank you so very much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope you had a good time. I had a great time talking to you.
Yes.
I hope everyone goes and checks you out. Please go to this page right now that we have links to this podcast, but also you can seek out Aytes Agency. But go to this page. All of the accounts that she's associated with are right there on her main page. So go check that out. Support her work. Thank you so very much. Welcome to Atlanta. Happy to have you here. Part of our amazing artistic community. I will see you soon. I think you might have to go.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Appreciate the opportunity. Take care.
always. Y'all, episode number 50. Thank you all so very much for rocking. Like I said, always when there's time at the end, I want to speak to some things that are happening. First, let's run down the stuff that's coming up at True Colors. Last week, we had an opportunity to chat with my man, professor at Clark Atlanta University, associate artistic director at Theatrical Outfit, but more importantly to me, the first ever playwright I was able to commission as artistic director at True Colors, Adaye Moon. We talked to him last week, about his upcoming piece, Red Velvet Brownies. Y'all, we are going to be bringing that to you at the end of this month. At the end of April, you're going to be able a chance to see Red Velvet Brownies on our streaming platforms. So please be on the lookout for that. Also, this Friday, if you're in the need of some digital content, you want to see some digital theater, True Colors had the opportunity to partner with our friends over at Clark Atlanta University and our friends in Texas at Southern Methodist University on a project called Good Trouble. So 6 plays were written by students at both of those universities that had the opportunity to collaborate with professional actors and directors to put on these plays, and they're responding to the words of the late, great Congressman John Lewis. So Good Trouble is going to be streaming on our platforms this Friday. Go over to our website, TrueColorsTheater.org, to sign up to make sure that you can have your face in the virtual place on Friday. Friday, 8 p.m. Is when we'll be showing Good Trouble. We just announced yesterday in our newsletter. If you don't get our newsletter, what's going on? Why haven't you signed up to our newsletter? TrueColorsTheater.org is the best way to sign up for. But in our newsletter, we shared out that we were going to do two community conversations this month. We're going to be talking about the right to the stage and how we can ensure that more young people, especially more young BIPOC kids, more young Black kids, find their way to the arts. There are so many structural inequalities that keep Black and brown communities from accessing the arts. That panel conversation will find ways of how we can break those down and better support our young people in their artistic futures. We're also going to have a conversation in partnership with the Atlanta Opera about some of the challenges being faced by our colleagues in the opera world. As you can imagine, that if you think the theater was white, boy, have you ever looked at opera? Our Black classical singers are experiencing some challenges. And in advance of our concert for Unity that we will do on Mother's Day in May, we're going to have a community conversation with several of those classic singers. So come back and check that out. Of course, all this information you can find at our website. I've said it 3 times now, TrueColorsTheater.org. The last thing I want to spend a little bit more time here as I take up some of the last words on this podcast. I want to speak to some disturbing trends that I'm seeing right now in our art space. You all know at the end of last month, we saw what can only be classified as a hate crime, as we saw a white man drive to several spots in Metro Atlanta and viciously murder 6 women of Asian descent, and 8 total people lost their life because of his recklessness, this domestic terrorism. In the immediate aftermath, all of us were filled with so much empathy for a community that often in Atlanta we split things up into Black and white, and we often overlook any of the other BIPOC communities. And that type of visibility also laid bare the ways in which we have not always done the best job by our Asian Pacific Islander community specifically, especially here in Atlanta. And that really affected me. At True Colors, we made a post and we made a statement, but we know that statements only go but so far. I think so many of us got fed up last summer when we saw organizations make statements around Black Lives Mattering, when we had not yet heard from, when we hadn't heard from them prior to this moment. And in the time since then, there are legitimate questions to be raised by some of those organizations, whether they be theaters, whether they be businesses or whatever, about how they have actually made Black Lives Matter and the statements that they said part of their daily reality. At True Colors, we don't want to be just another statement making organization and not actually putting our boots on the ground to denounce what we see happening to Asian Pacific Islander communities, what damage we do with erasure of those stories and of those opportunities. We're a Black theater company. We focus on Black storytelling. But the second half of our mission is while giving voice to bold artists of all cultures. And at True Colors, we want to make sure that we are using our platforms to properly give voice and give space to people of all cultures, because that's something that we believe in. We believe in collective liberation. We recognize that the enemy is not each other, but the enemy is white supremacy. The enemy is systemic injustice. That is what we are using our art as a tool to dismantle. We are not trying to use our art or our own oppressions to pit them against the challenges being faced by other communities. We are not competing for airtime. We are not competing for empathy. We are not interested in the oppression Olympics. What we are interested in is coalition building. What we are interested in is the sharing of stories so that we can learn more about one another and better understand how we can serve and help each other in that shared goal of collective liberation. So we are asking you, those of you all who are listening here, hold us accountable to not just our words, but to our actions, and that we can find more ways to use our platforms to support that second half of our mission, which is giving voice to all bold artists of all cultures. Y'all, I'm so thankful for you. I'm so grateful to be in this position as artistic leader, and it's something that I wear, and I bear the responsibility of ushering an organization that wants to be called to task on the ways in which we can do better by others. And all of the hate and mistrust and displeasure people were finding on social media channels as Black artist communities and AAPI artist communities found themselves being pitted against each other. Y'all, let's all remember that it is a tool of the oppressor, and we gain nothing by fighting one another. So I'm just thankful to be in community with you all. I'm going to ask all of us to do what you can to raise awareness on the plights being faced by our AAPI communities. Keep that same energy that we do in fighting for other injustices. Share it here in that space. Do what you can. Other than that, y'all, I want to ask you to encourage you to please, when it's your turn, go get vaccinated. I get shot 2 tomorrow, and I could not be more excited because I am ready to get back to live theater. I'm ready to re-engage. Now that doesn't mean that you just go out and go full bore. The science suggests that we still need to take our time integrating back into society, but we are all trying to move towards that herd immunity, and that's where we're going to be able to get back live shows. That's where we're going to be able to get back to doing what the theater does best, and that's sharing stories in that live medium. So I ask that you take care of yourselves, get that vaccine when it's time, stay masked up even if you do have a vaccine, because you're not just saving yourself, you're saving other people. Be kind to one another, use your platforms for positive work, and don't use it to tear anybody down. I can't wait to be with you all next week after we break this episode 50. Y'all, we about to do an episode 51. Y'all, the True Colors podcast continues to go on only because of you and your support. I will see you next Thursday, but please go check out tomorrow our Good Trouble piece. And after we'll talk next Thursday, you'll be ready to experience the visuals of Red Velvet Brownies by Iymaani and directed by Danielle Deadweiler. That'll be coming to you all later this month. Check us out, TrueColorsTheater.org. Sign up for our newsletter if you haven't signed up. You know who I'm talking to. You know who I'm talking to. Sign up for our newsletter so that we can make sure that you stay informed. I will see you all next week. Love you. Be safe. Talk to you soon.